Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So it looks like we're actually going to be swapping those trailing arms after all to the DC arms. I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to climb under a car and pull the whole cable out and then loop it the long way. But I'll show you guys how to do that anyways. The reason being is I actually realized that the passenger side rear hub assembly is actually noisy. So it sounds like the hub bearings are probably going on that thing. So we're going to be doing a full overhaul of the rear. So I'm going to be replacing the hubs, the calipers, the brakes, everything. And as well, I'm going to be putting in my CRX master cylinder since I'm going to have to replace the calipers anyway. So I'm going to be changing all of that over. So I'll show you guys what the noise is, how it sounds like for the wheel bearing or hub assembly, the noise. And then I'll go through the steps of how to pull it off. But we're eventually basically going to pull out the whole trailing arm, and then we're going to swap all the components over from the DA arm over to the DC arm. But let's just get to it. All right, guys, so listen to this. So the bearing's a little noisy. So I'm thinking this hub is gone. All right, so this is the other side. I know this side is good because I've already tested it before. So the best way is to isolate the noise. I didn't go over that, but pull the brake pads out. So this is not engaged in anything. So now you're only spinning the brake disc. So now let's have a listen to this side. It's much more quiet and it's much more smooth. All right, so in the process of getting this to be swapped to the DC arms, I'm going to be pulling the hub assembly and all that stuff out because I'm going to need to reuse the shields and, well, maybe not the shields, but maybe the bolts for the shields. But regardless, this needs to come out because my DC arms were actually bare. So what I'm going to do is just pop this cap off. There should be a little slot around somewhere. And you just get a flathead screwdriver and you pry it out. Then the hub nut is in there. I'll show you once I get that done. We'll do it on both sides. You have to put the wheel back onto the car, lower it to the ground, and then disengage this nut, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult if you remove everything first. All right, guys, as you can see, I pulled the cap off. You just tap it all the way around. There's actually no slot. So once you tap it all the way around, this thing pops up, the hub cover, and then you have to just undo this dent here. And then now we're gonna put the wheel back onto the car so we can lower it, and then we'll use a flex bar and loosen this. All right, so observe the technique. It's gonna be the same as removing the nut on the front axles. You're using a 32 millimeter. Pop that in there, and then you lift. Like so. And that's loose. Same thing for the other side. And it's loose. Alright guys, so with the brake assembly all taken out, you take out the rotor, the caliper bracket and all that. All you really have to do is just undo this nut, and then you kind of pull this out. It should come right out. There you go. Alright, so as you can see, everything's kind of disconnected. Now all that's left is just to disconnect the Ebrake cable, which I'm going to be doing inside the car first before I go under and disconnect the rest. So inside the car, here's where you adjust your Ebrake. So right here, there's a 12 millimeter adjuster bolt. So basically you loosen this all the way, disengage these cables from this bracket, and then you can pull them from underneath the car. As well, you have to undo this bolt as well because this holds these cables down. All right, so that's what it looks like once it's disengaged. All right, so this is the least amount of fun part. Basically got to go around and trace the wire all the way out. So it's held on by one, like I think 12 millimeter bolts. So there's a series of them that loop all the way around. I think it might be even hidden under a heat shield on the other side. So just gonna go ahead and get these out. All right guys, I got the both arms out. That's a pain in the ass to do, by the way. All right, so in order for me to swap these, because this bracket here is seized, so you can't even get this off So in order for me to swap this cable over to these arms, I'm going to need to take them out the long way by removing every single one of these little brackets on there and then looping out the whole cable through this hole and then installing it on those arms. All right, guys, so these are the DC arms. So you notice the spindles, they are actually a little bit rusty on the surface where the hub mounts up. So what I'm going to be doing is just cleaning that up. All I'm going to be using is some WD-40 and some steel wool. This should get all that rust off of it, and it'll give it a nice little bit of protection. As you can see, so much rust is already coming off this area, so you really got to scrub all the rust off. You want it clean for when you mount the new hub assembly. Now I'm just going to get some brake cleaner and spray it down a little bit. And a toothbrush to get that inside area out, because we got a lot of steel wool in there. Alright, we'll start with this one. This disengaged. We need to pry all these little clips off and then loop the wire through here. Now with that done, you can easily loop it through this hole. Not easily, but doable. There you go, cable's out. I mean, it's not likely that you'll ever have to do this, since all you really have to do is unbolt this and bolt onto another caliper. But if you're swapping from DA to another set of different trailing arms, and this is seized, this is probably the best method. It's the only method that I figured out. And then you basically install it on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up swapping everything over. I'll show you guys once it's done. All right, guys, so it's time to measure up this arm just to show you guys that track width problem. So it's roughly around here where you measure it, I would say. And that is pretty clear. It's like about 2.5 right here. Yeah, about 2.5. While this one here measure out to be about 2. So you're getting about a 1/2 inch difference on each side. So that's 1 full inch of track width difference from just measuring those arms. So that's just to give you guys an idea of the DA arms are actually wider. All right, so both of these are overhauled now. You see there's brand new hubs on both sides, and I've got the Ebrake cables on here. So now I'm just gonna be replacing these back into the car, and then we're gonna work on putting in some new brakes. All right, guys, so this is the hub assembly all installed. I've already routed all the cables inside the car. The E-brakes are all set up and all attached inside it again. So these are the DC arms. So we corrected that 1/2 inch offset on this. So I don't have the new brakes to do a brake bleed and install kind of thing today. So we're gonna do that on another video. Today is just basically buttoning it all up. I'm just gonna put everything back together and wait for my brake setup to come, and then I will show you guys how to install brakes and everything. But in this video, this is it. You torque this down to 130 foot-pounds, and then you gotta dent that in there. So I guess it just prevents it from moving and stuff. And that's basically it. So another thing to note, guys, is that this, you could actually tighten it while it's up in the air. You don't need to put it to the ground with the tire on. I didn't realize that this piece here doesn't actually spin. So yeah, you can actually remove this nut and take it and install it without having to have it on the ground. So that's one thing to note. So if you're here for basically how to replace your hubs, in order for you to get your hubs off, the easiest method is you pull at it and it should come off and maybe leave the race remaining. If it doesn't do that, if it's fully stuck, you need to get a pry bar and get right behind the race. You're able to get it right in here behind the heat shield and just tap it down and in the prying motion. And this would pop it out. I had no problem doing that. It didn't damage anything or anything, and it came out pretty easy. It takes a little bit of time. You basically tap it on one angle, you tap it on another angle, and just keep going around, and eventually the whole hub assembly will come out. Once that's out, then you can just replace your hub and pop the new one in. Just clean it up a little bit with some steel wool and WD-40 or whatever, and then pop your new hub assembly on. Alright guys, so that was the install for the DC Integra trailing arms. I swapped them from the DA to the DC to correct that track width problem, as well as installed the new hubs on there. The brakes will come as soon as I get the parts, so that will have to wait till the next video. But that's basically it for today, guys. If you haven't already, please comment, like, and subscribe, and share my videos. As always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.